Battlefield 2042 is here, and I cannot contain my immense excitement. That trailer was incredible. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But I'm going to go over some details, things that I picked up on in the trailer, and then I will do a separate video breaking down some of the information that was released along with the game. But I do want to break down some of the things that I saw and just some of the things that I think this trailer hinted at. Even though this wasn't actual gameplay, I think it is going to reflect the gameplay that we will see this Sunday when they do actually show gameplay. Regardless, I think this showed a lot of the mechanics in the same way BF5's trailer, as rough as that trailer was. This was a much better way to do it while also still showing off some of the game's mechanics. So anyway, remember, if you enjoyed, to leave a nice, thick, and juicy like. Of course, if you enjoy this content, hit that big red sexy subscribe button. Also, thank you to my channel members. You guys really help make these videos possible, and shout out to you guys and everyone who showed up to the stream this morning. That was a great time. I really enjoyed, playing Battlefield and then being able to watch the trailer together. That was really great. So anyway, if you want to join, get access to the exclusive perks they get, check out the link in the description or hit the blue join button. Anyway, let's get into this trailer. Now, they said this game was going to be a love letter to Battlefield, and it absolutely, if the trailer reflects this, it absolutely will be. So the first thing that we start off with is a Damavan peak jump. I mean, that's what they start off with. That's like the original, maybe not the original only in Battlefield moment, but that's like the one a lot of people think of, the big jump. That's what this trailer starts with. That was really cool. Now, we do get to see a little bit more of this map later. At least I think it's the same map. To me, it looks like a mix of Damavan Peak and Operation Whiteout from BF4. So these maps are going to be huge, so I'm sure there's going to be some inspiration from previous maps. We already know that, some of them, well, I'll get through them as we go. But yeah, Damavan Peak Jump starts off, looks like it also may be like Operation Whiteout type of map. The other thing I want to point out, and this was a big worry for me, is I thought drones were going to be something that might be overused because it is set slightly in the future, hence the name 2042, but it seems like the drone stuff isn't going to be too overly used. The dog that they showed off, the little drone Boston Dynamics robot, it looks like it's going to be something that's equivalent of like a MAV or something like that, where it's kind of like a recon thing or some that's a tool more so than it is like, going to be kamikazing tanks and stuff like that. Like, it just looks like, again, like the MAV, it's just going to be a tool to be able to scout out, find things, be just a nice little thing that you can use, and it's a really cool looking thing. So who knows, could be wrong there. Again, once we see gameplay, we'll know more, but it wasn't a massive part of the trailer, and I think it looked kind of cool, adds a different kind of dynamic to things. The one thing I also want to point out is on this map here, and I think this is the map that's set in India. Number one, we see a giant oil tanker is just sitting in the middle of a desert. Sounds a lot like the climate catastrophes have been hitting pretty bad all over the world. But this piece of the ship that falls, I think that this is just how the standard destruction is going to be. I think it's going to be that massive for just little things like that. I think that's one of the next gen steps that they're able to take with this game. Because typically destruction, I mean, you take the chunk off of buildings, something like that. But here it looks like we can take these massive pieces of buildings down at once. And I think that's going to be really cool if that is the case. I would say that something like this would be considered a Levolution event in something like BF4, but here I think this is just something we're going to see as just your standard destruction event. And I'll get to what the new Levolution is going to be later, but if the destruction is that big, that is going to be just incredible to be able to play through. Just the absolute chaos of these games is what I love so much. It's what separates it from so many others. I think this game is going to focus a lot on chaos, just judging from the trailer. Obviously in Battlefield, you have the control over yourself. You want to have great control of your soldier and the things that you can control, like the gunplay and whatnot. Again, that's going to wait until we actually see gameplay and see how it functions. But I love the aspect of chaos that you're at the mercy of the battlefield. And I think this game is going to just really crank that to a whole new level. And we see that again later in the trailer once we see the giant tornado come in. If the weather events are like this in the actual gameplay and they're just pulling soldiers up off the ground and slinging them around the map, that's going to be really cool if like you can actually experience like flying around in a tornado. Of course, it would change depending on the weather event that we experience. Maybe a tsunami hits a certain map. Maybe it's a giant sandstorm on another map. I don't know. I hope it doesn't, become something that's annoying. I don't want to fly around in a tornado tornado for 20 minutes. That wouldn't be very fun. I would just redeploy at that point. But I think having a little bit of an effect on the map and the experience, I think would be really cool. Again, I'm not advocating for us just swirling around the tornado for 20 minutes. I think if it comes and it picks you up and slings you into a building, that way you kind of get a little bit of an experience out of it, but it's not too long. I don't know, I'm kind of on a rant here. We do see a little bit of a North Shore Canals kind of throwback. Apparently this map is also kind of going to be combined with Caspian Border, like that kind of inspiration. I don't know. I think that would be a cool combination to have. Again, it looks like they're really taking a lot of the classic beloved Battlefield 3 and 4 locations and trying to put them together in these much larger maps. I think that's a great idea. Obviously, it really makes it the maps you loved before and put them together. It's a good idea. I'm sorry, I'm unscripted here, so I apologize if I sound like I'm all over the place, but I think I'm getting my thoughts out pretty good. Now, you will notice in the trailer, there are massive groups of players. We see it here in this little North Shore Canals area. We also see it on the rooftops of what looks like a kind of Dawnbreaker looking map. We see these mass groups of players together. That's a pretty simple explanation. This game is going to have 128 players, so it's going to get pretty crowded in certain areas of this map, and I think that this is what the trailer is trying to show off, that there are going to be tons of players. Now, speaking of the various players and soldiers, the customization in this game looks awesome. Some of the close-up snippets that we saw looked great. I think some of the more kind of, I guess you could say, epic-looking guys, those must be the specialists. I'm not 100% clear as to what the specialists are. Again, that'll probably have to wait until we see gameplay, but from what I understand, essentially it's like you get a specialist in your squad and they have these buffed abilities. So say a medic can, I don't know, for example, shoot a medic dart at someone and heal them that way. It's probably going to be something along those lines. Maybe a support guy can resupply all of your gadgets and whatnot rather than just like one gadget. Maybe it's something like that. Assault, recon, whoever, maybe they get these really cool buffs to their, maybe secondary abilities that I think could be really, really fun. So we'll have to see more about how those work. They do seem like they're going to be a pretty big part of the game, so we'll see. Anyway, that's really all I have for break. Oh no, one other thing. So back to the weather events. So actually one of the cool things you'll notice on a lot of the maps is, for example, going back to that Dawnbreaker looking map, you'll notice that there's sand dunes in the streets of the city if you look down below. And I think this goes back to that climate catastrophe theme. I think the world has been just utterly destroyed by this climate catastrophe, these levels of climate catastrophe events. And as you can see, I mean, there's sand dunes in the streets of the city. I mean, they shouldn't be there. And I think this is a sign of those mass dust storms. If you remember in the history books, things like the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma, you'd have people like their entire homes, entire towns, they'd be completely ruined by these massive dust storms that would just cover everything in sand. And I think that's what we're seeing on a much larger scale here. And I think that is a really cool way to go about this near future post-apocalyptic event. It's a different take on like a World War III. It's not like, oh, nuclear annihilation or anything like that. It's definitely something different. And I think it's something that a lot of people can somehow relate to as we see climate changes around the world. I think that is a really cool way to go about it and a really interesting way to do it so that you don't really have a clear antagonist and maybe this war is a cause of political gain or political purposes rather than an actual conflict of, nuclear powers trying to take each other out. I think that is a very cool way to try and get these things together. I don't know. We'll see more. There's no campaign, so we don't really get a huge story around the game, but hopefully there is something that kind of gives us background as to why this conflict is happening and why things are the way they are. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I tried to make this quick. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a nice, thick, and juicy like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.